This is IA Forward, your playbook for success as an independent insurance agent. Here to help you knock it out of the ballpark are your hosts, Shane Tatum and Tonya Lead.
Welcome to IA Forward. We are excited to have with us in the studio the fabulous Miss Tara Graham. Hello.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here.
Shane, you've known Tara basically your entire life.
A minute. It's been a minute.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you introduce her.
Tara and I have worked together for 20 plus years. We've kind of grown up in the business, and she's definitely been one of the right-hand ladies in our organization, at least for me, for sure. And even though she's had this really long history of commercial lines expertise, she also is our retail director. So she runs our retail operation, which is our direct-to-consumer operation. The original agency is really what she oversees and continues to grow and manage, and really took on that role. I think it's been a couple of years now, maybe
about 2 years.
Almost a little over 2 years. It's really been fantastic growth, operational guru, an automation queen.
An automation queen.
There you go.
There you go. I have a queen title.
Queen title. So very, very important to our organization, and so excited to do this with her this morning.
Put it in perspective, I think that Tara is the E.F. Hutton of our org.
Yeah.
And I just dated myself because there used to be this commercial, and I'll post this on our social media, so check it out on our LinkedIn, our Insta, or our Facebook. But there was this commercial that said when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen. And people would be chattering and they would just get really quiet. And to me, you're the E.F. Hutton of our organization.
That's a really, really good analogy.
Y'all are being way too kind. This is great.
Okay, so tell us, what is the secret sauce to share with a new agent that's just starting their agency?
Starting out, it's just going to be to have patience, to stick as closely to your plans as you can and not deviate too far from what your initial goals are going to be. And then also be patient with yourself. That's one of the biggest things, because in my world with having kids, and I always like to tell them mistakes are opportunities. So just know that there are going to be mistakes. There's going to be an abundance of mistakes. And just learn from those, because that is what allows things to grow.
If you were working with a new agent, helping them plan what their book was going to look like, what would you say to them?
A lot of it is just looking at your location, what you want your market appetite, or what you want your focus to be, who your circles are, what your communities are like, how you can reach those people, and developing your approach and your marketing efforts around where you are.
This is top of mind right now, because Tara's been leading us through somewhat of a course correction on that. 15, 16 years ago, we went into this streamline carrier portfolio, make sure that we keep the very difficult to process, manage, service accounts or carriers out of the portfolio. Did pretty well, and then kind of got away from that for a few years. And then a couple of years ago when she took over, we really realized that that's a mess. Being everything to everyone and trying to write everyone and having a market for everything, it's just not scalable. It's not easy to manage. It's not scalable. It drives our staff crazy, even though they don't like saying no.
Yes.
They don't like saying no, but at the same time, they also don't want to work in the carrier portal that's very difficult to work in.
Right.
And so putting parameters, putting some parameters around that is good too.
That's a huge thing. Yeah, being disciplined, especially as an independent agent, you have all of these options. You're going to have all of these options to multiple markets, and it's consolidating that down to a doable number of who you can be successful with when it comes to writing the business.
So in essence, you within our organization are the quote-unquote agency owner. If we're trying to put you in a position that's relatable to the people we're talking with, you run our retail agency. You also work semi-remotely. In this day of remote work, share with our listeners, please, how that works for you and how that has helped with your work-life balance.
It's been wonderful for me. I always like to tell our staff, Shane has always been on the cutting edge of testing the waters with electronics and our computer systems and different things like that. I was remote way back in the day.
She was our very first remote
remote
ever.
So it's something that I'm used to. I'm very accustomed to. The thing, though, in our day and age that is so important is that even though you are remote, that you still feel connected. And we utilize multiple programs within our organization, of course, email, Microsoft Teams, various programs and platforms like that to make sure that you're not disconnected. Because as an agency owner, as someone in leadership, you want to be available. You never want to have the appearance or presence that you're not available. So becoming comfortable with whatever means that is in your shop to make that happen.
So what does a general Tuesday look like for you?
Tuesdays, I'm usually at my home office, and when I start out the day, my Teams is on, my phone is always on, of course, emailing, but whether I have meetings set up via Teams or I have a phone call set up, either way, I'm communicating. I'm on the phone a lot or chatting through Teams to where you almost have that feel that you're in the office, that there is no disconnect. The good thing about a program like Teams is you can quickly and easily share the screen. If I'm talking with someone in one of my departments and I'm needing them to see something and understand it, I just quickly share my screen just like we're right there next to each other. And they can see exactly what we're talking about. The remote work, it's wonderful in its place, but you never want to make it to where you're out of the office and you're unavailable. You have to always be available.
So in your case, you're actually remote out of your office at home. Mm-hmm. You're at 2 different offices in the week. You spend a day at one office and a day at another office. So you're around your people and you're at home. So you're kind of in a hybrid environment today. Mm-hmm. When did you start remotely?
It was in the late 90s, Shane.
Was it late 90s?
Before Teams was a thing.
It was not a Teams environment.
It truly was. And then there was part-time programs that we had going on just to accommodate me in different seasons of life, but then for sure went straight to remote in 2003.
So you were a remote worker before remote working was cool.
It's true, and I go back to Shane and his tech guru self. He found the avenues to make things happen.
She was a true telecommuter.
Yes, that's what it was back then.
Used the phrase telecommuter.
That is what it was.
Yes. Beyond working remotely, how do you balance work and life?
When I am given a task, I have to get on that and make sure I'm seeing progress to get that done. Whether that's getting the animals to the vet. You know, if I have an appointment to get animals to the vet, I am going to make that appointment. So I try to stick to the plans that have been made or the tasks that have been charged. And so the work-life balance of that is when I am at work, I try to make the most of my work time to get those things done, to where at 8 o'clock at night I think, oh gosh, I really should have done that today. Not that that never happens, but I really try to guard myself against that and making sure during the day I'm working, that I'm getting the things that I need to get accomplished that day so that my time is at home with the family after the workday ends. Again, there's things that come up, obviously, that where you have to stray away from that somewhat, but just sticking to your plans and schedules that you've set forth for the day.
One of the things that's really important to her has been to pick up kids from school.
Yes,
right?
huge.
And that's just something that's been important to her and something that she's done. But I also will get emails from her at 6:05 a.m., right? And so she's an early worker.
Yeah, I am.
Right?
I am.
So she will leave and get kids at 3 o'clock or whatever time it is, but it's not a question of what is she doing. It's this movement from time to production or time to accomplishment. That's the remote work thing that we really don't necessarily pay attention to a lot, and we've been talking about it for probably over a decade, and it's really hard for companies or people to move from. Is if you are maybe from a generation where it was all about time, you have to kind of move yourself mentally from that time-based thing to the role, the job description, the function. And that's a big leap. Like, that's a really hard thing to do. I know for me, I came up early, and it was the folks that would have trained us were boomer, and it was all about time. Right. It was the clock in generation. It was the, you got to be at your desk at 8 o'clock and work ends at 5. And it was really time oriented. Big change, big difference there.
It is, for sure.
Within our organization, what is one thing you wish we did differently?
We do everything just right, Tonya. Oh my my goodness. I know that whenever we see things where we may be lacking, for instance, our approach to continuing education for our staff, COVID had a lot to do with this, but somewhat even prior to COVID, we were allowing, or folks were allowed to take their continuing education courses online and virtually. And Shane, Holly, myself, others that have been in somewhat of the retail side for a long time, seeing interactions of staff with customers and coverage changes that come from companies. You see, and not only us, but on the company side as well, almost a stop in growth, not learning at the pace in which the industry is changing. And so when we see things like that, one of our steps or adjustments was to let's get people back out into classes, get them under live instruction so that not only they could hear that live instruction and not be disrupted by work, but also network with their peers within the industry.
We went from you have to be seeking a designation, you have to be seeking growth and improvement in live classes, and we typically National Alliance is the big organization we would use for CISR, CIC, CRM. We were doing that for years, and then we kind of got lax with that, right? And it just got easier and easier for people to sit in front of their screen and not pay attention,
right? Checking emails or looking at their phones,
do other things. And now we've reintroduced, you have to be pursuing a designation, you have to go to class. And so we're going to look back 5, 7, 8 years from now and go, wow, that was a really important thing that we did.
Tara, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A nurse.
Really? What kind of nurse?
Initially, labor and delivery, and then it moved into oncology, but life happened.
She got sucked into the insurance black hole.
Yes, I grew up, I had a history of nurses. My grandmother was a nurse, my mother was a nurse, and so visiting the hospital and visiting the other nurses when I would go and see them while they were on the job, it was a fun environment.
So what was a myth that you had in your mind about the insurance world that surprised you wasn't true when you came into this organization?
Maybe boring. Office work and pushing paper, different things like that would be the myth that first comes to mind. But
it's not boring.
No, it's not.
I wonder if you have to be an insurance nerd for it not to be boring, or
I think so. Yeah.
Are we? It's a $3 trillion industry.
Oh,
How can
I know.
It be boring,
yes,
right?
That was the myth, but so much to say to folks talking about that myth. Everyone is probably seeing that there's just not a whole lot of young folks necessarily that enter into the industry. And if I were to say there might be something I'm passionate about, is somehow being able to connect with kids coming out of high school, those that are graduating from college, whatever it may be. It's just not out there, the things about our industry that are great. So they never just intentionally seek this industry, I think. I wish there was a better way that our industry was doing that for the younger folks.
Beyond being passionate about what you do at work, what are you passionate about in life?
I have a real strong faith in Christ. My family is a huge part of that. I have 3 boys that are active in a lot of things, primarily sports. I love sports. I love doing everything that they do, encouraging them and watching that. I love working with our kids at church. But, just my faith and family. That's it. That's what it is.
Tara, tell me the worst piece of advice you've ever been given.
That one's easy. Follow your heart. That is such a huge misconception. Our heart tends to gravitate towards self, and that is one of the things that we need to focus less on is ourselves. We should have the servant mindset and how we can help others.
And I think that crosses over into what you've been building in our retail department, having that whole concept of servant leadership and teaching our teams that.
Yeah.
One of our core values is, of course, serve others. And one of the things that really stuck out to me about the serve others piece would be Tara. She would have been one of those examples that was like about serving others. Everyone contributed from our longtime leadership of our organization. Every one of those individuals contributed to something, whether it was honesty wins, whether it was dependability. I would kind of brag on Tara a little bit and say she got a lot of the serve others.
New agent, starting their agency, they want to do it right from the beginning. What are the 3 main things they need to focus on?
Number 1, partner with Integra. I'm obviously in Integra, but I do see the ins and outs of what we do. I see our people working. I see the passion that our people have around things, and I can't imagine there being a better place. I think as a new agency, finding that organization that you are going to partner with, number one, making sure their culture aligns with who you are. That's a huge thing. You don't want to constantly be battling something that is countercultural to you. The next thing is knowing what you're wanting to go after. Are you wanting to be a primarily personal agency, or are you wanting to incorporate commercial into that? To what extent? Because then you could get into the whole dabbling concept. You want to make sure that you're able to handle efficiently the things that you're putting your goals out there for and that you're wanting to do. And then again, at the end of the day, is just staying disciplined around the companies that you're setting out to do business with, having the understanding that it's okay to say no. And initially you may want to set up just some certain things in your offices that may not necessarily be required by our companies. I'll use the EFT option as far as making payments for insurance policies. We've had some agents that's all they're doing now is when they write new business, they write those customers on the EFT payment plan so they don't have to get involved in non-payments, cancellations of policies, etc. That's just one example, but where I'm going with that is just the discipline around the things in how you want to build your agency and what you want that to look like.
Just using the EFT thing or even recurring credit card, I'd put those two things in the same bucket, right? It's a little thing. It doesn't sound like a big thing, but when a company says, here are the payment plans, when you're offering a proposal to a customer and there's payment plans or pay in full or bill by mail or whatever, you have a choice to say, I only offer EFT or credit card. Here are your options to pay. Or you can pay in full or whatever. I'm not even sure I like pay in full as much as I like recurring credit card or EFT, because there's a whole renewal process there.
From an outside non-insurance perspective, I never knew there was an option. I've been paying for my own car insurance since I was 19 years old, and I've never had an agent not say, I need your credit card or I need your EFT information. I never even knew that you could mail in a payment.
And kudos to your agent when you were 19 years old. Your household grew up on State Farm.
We did.
If I remember. That was one of the things that State Farm did really well. And as they grew early on and into the 2000s, what grew State Farm to the behemoth that they are were little simple things like that. Their agents weren't offering anything else. They were offering a very efficient service concept. And when you're just paying your bill and it's renewing and recurring, it's a non-event. The insurance renewal goes away. That would be wonderful if we could make the insurance renewal go away. And it was just perpetual, right? No companies wouldn't love that because they couldn't modify rates or whatever, and they need to do that from time to time. But it's like you want this perpetual thing. You don't want to create shopping events if you can help it.
That's right.
So
that's so true.
Because our product doesn't go on sale.
No,
it does not.
One of the things, Tonya, as Shane was just talking, you were talking about the three things starting out as an independent agent. Shane has talked about this a lot, and it would be to not get caught up in the comparison game for the other agents in your territory, thinking you have to be like them or that you want to do things exactly like them. Your agency is your agency, and it's going to operate how you want it to operate. You shouldn't let others dictate that.
I want to go back to what you were talking about with commercial. If one of our listeners has been cheating on our podcast and choosing to listen to other insurance podcasts, you hear a lot out there about commercials where the money is. Let's talk a little bit about commercial because you're our commercial expert. Let's focus on deciding to do commercial, not deciding to do commercial, or just dabbling a little bit in commercial.
The commercial industry is fun, but let's just be honest. Everything is different. As an agent, when you are speaking with a business, there are no two businesses the same. And not that on the personal line side that's the case either, but when you're quoting auto is auto, home is home. In commercial lines, it can just get interesting and allow you the opportunities to delve a little bit deeper into what the businesses in your area are doing and beyond that. The problem is it's wonderful to do both. Here within our retail division, we have 2 departments, a personal lines department and a commercial lines department. And we weren't always able to do that in the very beginning. As we were starting out, people had to do both. The sheer reality is, and I'll just talk about personal lines here for just a moment, there is so much expertise that goes into writing personal lines business. Every company that you do business with, they in and of themselves have multiple forms, multiple companies that they are doing business with. And so you have to learn all of those things. You have to learn the products, know the endorsements, everything that there is to that. When you start incorporating commercial into that, you of course have to do the very same thing with commercial. So if you're set up and you're prepped and able to do all of this, to be able to focus on both, then that's, I believe, what the key is just being able to not shortcut either one of those departments. You want to make sure that there is somewhat of a focus in those.
I've harped on don't dabble, especially for personal lines agents, and that's been kind of a mantra of mine for a few years because we saw it happening and because we did it ourselves and we messed it up. And I was the worst about, hey, Tara, can they do both? Can't they write a little bit of commercial? What if we were to hire a commercial producer? Well, can we let them write a little personal lines on the side so they can help supplement their income?
Those are fun conversations.
Those are the it's funny because Tara and Holly have been part of our organization for the 20 plus year club, and the conversations have typically been with them side by side. And the conversation would go along the lines of Holly speaking very quickly, "Oh my God, please don't," and Tara being, well,
I was going to say, Shane.
Tara, very respectfully, you remember, we tried this a half a dozen times before, and it didn't work.
How much clearer do I have to be?
Let's let commercial be commercial and personal be personal. Let's just do it that way because it works. And I'm like, okay.
A lot of people, it seems like, as agents are starting out, that there's maybe a little bit of fear around commercial. And that would be one of my other things that I would just love to encourage agents, especially starting out in the industry. There is nothing to fear because there are so many courses, training programs out there around writing commercial that if that is an avenue that you want to take, it's certainly prepped and ready for them to do that.
And if you're partnered with the right organization, you have support in that,
yes,
right?
yes.
And guidance in that. And I think that's also, don't be scared of it.
Right.
I mean, we want to grow our commercial operation, right? I mean, we think there's so much opportunity there. We don't want the industry to ever come across as sounding like we're anti-commercial.
Right.
It's different.
Yeah.
Don't lump it into the same bucket.
Yes.
So you've suggested books to me over the last few years to read. What book have you read recently that you think our listeners would get some great takeaways from?
Where the Crawdads Sing.
We actually bashed that book.
We did
Yes.
a few episodes ago.
Yes.
Yeah, we totally bashed
I've
that
gotten
one.
in trouble on that. I just couldn't get through the beginning of it. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go.
No. But anyway, that's kind of the extent for the most part of my reading over the summer. But what I do daily, where I kind of stay daily in my reading is in Proverbs and Psalms. I always try to read some of that every day.
I told Shane yesterday I visited a church a few years ago. And I was actually asked to not come back to the Sunday school class because the teacher kept insisting that God helps those who help themselves was in Proverbs. And I tried to explain to her very politely that no, it's not. That's Benjamin Franklin. And that came from Poor Richard's Almanac.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, that's my, every time somebody says that how much wisdom is in Proverbs, I'm like, oh my gosh, yes it is. But God helps those who helps themselves.
Benjamin Franklin had a lot mission, but he's not Jesus.
No. And he was a deist. He wasn't even a Christian,
That's pretty funny.
So I'm going to let you close us out today with your favorite quote.
I hear this quote all the time in my house. Nothing great was ever achieved without enthusiasm. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And then the other one is one of my favorite scriptures is 1 Thessalonians 5:16, and it's one of the shortest scriptures in the Bible, and it's rejoice always. It's just a daily reminder that our contentment and our joy as believers is not and should not be driven by the circumstances in our lives.
Attitude's a choice. Make a great one.
Bye, y'all.
Ready to get the ball rolling with your independent agency? Learn more at IntegraAgent.com. That's IntegraAgent.com. Thank you for joining us on IA Forward. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now or learn more at IAForward.com.